Marcus stood outside the imposing glass doors of the Court Theatre, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched his audition folder. At 22, he had already faced more rejections than most actors see in a lifetime, but something about this particular audition felt different, more terrifying, more important. The role was perfect for him. Also, he thought, there was just one small problem. The character had to sing, and Marcus couldn't carry a tune if his life depended on it. "What's the worst that could happen?" he whispered to himself, pushing through the doors. 2 hours later, Marcus walked out of that same theater, his dream crushed into 1,000 pieces. The casting director's words still echoed in his mind. "Thank you, but we're looking for someone with more musical ability." 3 years had passed since that devastating audition. Marcus was now 25, working in his mother's beauty shop in Mount Vernon, feeling like his dreams had died on that theater stage. His college grades had spiraled after changing majors from pre-med to pre-law to journalism, finally dropping out with a 1.8 GPA. "I'm a failure, Mom," he said, sweeping hair from the floor. "Maybe I should just accept that acting isn't for me." That's when Mrs. Washington, one of the shop's regular customers and a respected elder in the community, removed her hairdryer and fixed Marcus with an intense stare. "Young man," she said, her voice carrying the weight of decades of wisdom, "I've been watching you mope around here for months. Let me tell you something. I have a vision about your future." Marcus looked up, skeptical but curious. "You're going to travel the world. You're going to speak to millions of people. You're going to inspire them in ways you can't even imagine right now." Marcus nearly laughed. "Mrs. Washington, with all due respect, I can't even get a call back for a local commercial." She smiled knowingly. "Child, your biggest failures are just preparing you for your greatest successes. But first, you need to learn something important." Mrs. Washington pulled out a napkin and drew 9 dots in a square pattern. "This is an old puzzle," she said. "You have to connect all 9 dots with just 5 straight lines without lifting your pencil. Most people can't solve it. You know why?" Marcus studied the dots, trying various combinations. "I don't know." "Because they try to stay inside the box the dots create. But the only way to solve it is to go outside the box, to think beyond the boundaries that seem to exist." She demonstrated, drawing lines that extended beyond the dots. "Your problem isn't that you can't act, Marcus. Your problem is that you're trying to stay inside the box of what you think success should look like." Inspired by Mrs. Washington's words, Marcus decided to try again. But this time, he approached his career differently. Instead of avoiding his weaknesses, he embraced them. He took singing lessons, knowing he might never be Broadway material, but determined to improve. He auditioned for everything: commercials, indie films, theater productions. The rejections kept coming, but now he saw each no differently. Instead of falling backward into despair, he was falling forward into experience. Years passed. Marcus collected rejection letters like badges of honor. He worked odd jobs, took acting classes, and slowly built his craft. Some days were harder than others, but he remembered Mrs. Washington's prophecy and kept pushing forward. 30 years later, Marcus stood outside the Court Theatre once again. This time, he wasn't there for an audition. He was there as a star of a critically acclaimed play called Fences. As he looked up at the marquee bearing his name, he couldn't help but smile. The same theater where he had experienced his most crushing failure was now hosting his greatest triumph. During the opening night performance, as he delivered his lines to a packed house, Marcus realized something profound. Every failure, every rejection, every moment of doubt had been preparing him for this moment. The singing audition he'd failed decades ago had taught him humility. The years of struggle had given him depth. The rejections had made him resilient. That night, after the standing ovation, Marcus sat alone in his dressing room and thought about Mrs. Washington's prophecy. Through his performances, he had indeed spoken to millions. But more than that, he had learned to speak to himself differently. He imagined what would have happened if he had given up after that first audition, if he had chosen to fall backward instead of forward. He pictured the ghosts of his unfulfilled potential, the dreams he would have buried, the people he would never have inspired. How many people, he wondered, are letting their ghosts gather around them right now instead of bringing their dreams to life? Marcus picked up his phone and recorded a voice message for his social media. "To everyone who's been rejected, who's been told they're not good enough, who's facing their own court theater moment. Remember this: your setbacks are setups for comebacks. Your failures are not final destinations. They're stepping stones to your purpose. Don't fall backward into regret. Fall forward into growth. Take the risk. Embrace the failure. Because on the other side of your fear is everything you've ever wanted. The world needs what you have to offer. The question isn't whether you'll face rejection. You will. The question is, what will you do with it? Marcus's story spread far beyond social media. People began sharing their own falling forward moments. A young entrepreneur who had failed at 3 startups before building a successful business. A student who had been rejected from medical school twice before becoming a doctor. A single mother who had pursued her education despite overwhelming obstacles. Each story carried the same message. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about transforming failure into fuel for your journey. As you read this story, ask yourself, what dreams have you put on hold because you're afraid to fail? What risks have you avoided because you can't guarantee success? Remember Marcus's journey. Remember Mrs. Washington's prophecy. Remember that every great success story is built on a foundation of failures that were reframed as learning experiences. Your time is now. Your dreams are waiting. The world needs what you have to offer. Don't fall backward into regret. Fall forward into your destiny. What failure in your life could become your greatest stepping stone? Share your story in the comment below and inspire others to fall forward into their dreams.